Welcome to the Dawg and Gus show, now on Feel It Radio.
What's up, dog?
Not much, Gus. You.
Not much. We're here with a guy that's making me kind of nervous, actually.
Yeah, you said that a little earlier.
Yeah, I don't know. It's because I messed up his name so many times, his band name so many times, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's wearing a lumberjack hat, so it's kind of intimidating.
He is intimidating.
Yeah.
We have a thing with wood in our band. So
Okay.
I'll tell you about that.
Wood.
Yeah.
Wood, Jerry.
You were
Lazzy
saying.
Lung. Lazzy Lung. I love it.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, taking some time.
Definitely. And first and foremost, if you guys don't mind, I'd just like to do like a mini PSA. Today is the 18th of December. It's the global strike in solidarity with the Palestinian people. And, just really hoping that the situation in the Middle East kind of, settles down, ceasefire now, the whole thing. Do what you can, educate yourselves about the situation. I have a lot of friends, even family, who have, a very difficult time processing everything that's happening. I'll get into my history in the Middle East because, as I may have mentioned to you guys before offline, I spent nearly 2 decades of my life there. So, I've had my fair share of direct impact of facing, these war scares and things of the like.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that the challenge is you get to see what you get to see. And I think that bringing awareness to that is great of you to do, for sure. Also, you hate to see, I've seen videos obviously, but the only thing, as a parent now, and you're seeing kids that are killed, and it's heartbreaking, really. I mean, it's tough to swallow.
Yeah, so I really do encourage all of your listeners and fans of the show to kind of take a little bit of time to maybe look into things, educate themselves, and stand in solidarity for peace. And hopefully, I've never really had a political stance in my music or even online. And, especially being a Canadian abroad, I felt really weird talking about the issues on the ground. I didn't really feel like it was appropriate. So I would just kind of stick to the rock and roll type stuff, And now, having left the Middle East, and so many of my friends and family are directly affected by this, like Lebanon right now, where I was based in Beirut, is they're directly feeling the heat from the situation as we speak.
Yeah, because they're right across the ocean. You can see it almost from
they're on the border,
yeah.
Right? They're bordering with Israel, and it's been 9 weeks that the South has been exchanging clashes. So anyway, I just wanted to say my piece about that. And everybody, it's uncomfortable, but hey, maybe work through it and educate yourselves.
No, sounds good. Thank you for sharing that. It's an important discussion. But like, again, we'll go from there, and we'll get into some music, if that's okay.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So like, when you say a band in the land of kebab and bad decisions,
it's a nice little tagline.
It is.
Yeah.
Could you expand on that a little bit, please?
Well, I mean, plenty of bad decisions have been made both by us as people, and there's just been trouble all around, and it's just a cute kind of poking fun at our debaucherous ways, and also the seriousness of the surrounding area. It's kind of hard to not to ignore, but there are definitely a lot of people that are speaking to the events in their art and in their music, and that is something that has kind of shifted. When I first moved to the Middle East, this was around 2005, 2006, and I was actually stationed in Beirut around April or May of 2006. And shortly thereafter, the Israeli Hezbollah war broke out. I was actually on the beach, just having some fun in the sun, taking some time off work, and I was at this resort in towards the south of Lebanon, and there was a waiter who came through while we were suntanning, and the waiter was like, "I'm so sorry to disturb you, but if you don't mind, please leave. The situation in the south is getting serious, and for your own safety, we
need you to leave.
We need you to leave." And I was like, "Come on," and the people that I was with, they were like, "This happens all the time. Like, relax. There are clashes all the time." And there is typically this innate thing where you kind of just minimize, or you
Brush it off or whatever.
brush it off. But it did turn out to be, I was evacuated actually, because things got really, really heated. And I brought my laptop, my guitar, and a couple of clothes in a backpack, and I was evacuated to Jordan. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's actually kind of how the Lazzy Lung journey began, really.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, bad, but nice that you came out of it with that.
Yeah. I mean, it was a strange time, and I ended up making my first record, Strange Places, based around that thing. I mean, it was very odd for having lived nearly my whole life in Ottawa, and then, into adulthood, into this new chapter of working a crazy job away from home. And so I had all of these experiences and feelings that that later became my first album.
Cool. Yeah. Interesting. I always ask where it began, but that's you've helped us with that.
Yeah. Currently now, the band is kind of a super group in a way, as far as
nice.
Yeah, as far as like, I don't know, bands that have existed in and around town. The guitarist Craig Irvin was in Beau Royale. My current bassist Simon, he and I actually in high school, we were in high school together, and we were in a punk band called Sunday Riot. And I'll get into a whole lot of stories about that, because that was a very, very crazy time for me coming up as a young aspiring musician, and kind of gave me the framework of being a DIY, do-it-yourself punk rocker kind of dude. And then and on drums we have Stephen Parfit, who's formerly from the UK, in a group called Ruby Cruiser. They were a signed band back in the 90s. And so we've all kind of had a bit of experience, both here in Ottawa and abroad. And we're working on some new music, and trying to get reacquainted with Ottawa.
Nice.
Yeah.
Ottawa's grown.
Yeah. Well, how long have you been back?
I came back to Ottawa around September of 2020. Yeah.
So pretty much right in time for all the fun. Get back here just in time for a pandemic.
Oh yeah, it was
even more fun. We're going to leave
was into the pandemic at that point.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Pandemic was already in full swing, I guess.
Oh, so you said September?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was lockdowns and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it was post. One of the main factors as to me coming home were two things: family health, and also the massive explosion that happened on August 4th
in Beirut,
2020 in Beirut. My family were just like, "Hey, can you not, with being away from home and living in such a volatile, region?" And
my friend's from Beirut, and he has family there still, and it was the first guy I called, and he said his brother was actually close by, but kind of got out of there, thankfully. It's pretty it was pretty intense at that point. I mean, like you said, it's been intense there for a while. So
Yeah, my drummer was actually working maybe 1.5 kilometers away from ground zero, and like nearly lost his face. He had shout out to Bashir. They're actually having a show. He's now in a death metal band called Khavar. It's like these Armenian dudes, and they have a show coming up in Beirut right now. Very, very cool sound. They worked actually with the drummer from Nile.
oh really?
If you're familiar with
Yeah,
Nile.
I know Nile. Yeah,
Yeah, Derek Roddy. There are a lot of bands out of Beirut that have really, done some remarkable things, worked with some big names and put out, like, there's a really healthy scene over there.
mm-hmm.
And we were, from around 2010 to around 2015.
Isn't System of a Down from Armenian as well?
Yeah. Serge Tankian, once upon a time lived in Borj Hamoud, the Armenian district of Beirut, I think. But yeah, crazy times, man. Crazy things.
They love the
Small world.
Yeah, it is. It is a small world. It certainly brings it closer when things happen and people are either there or have family there or just have a connection to it in some way. Maybe an off the cuff here. Well, who are your musical influences? Because I was listening to a song, and I sort of mentioned it to you, and I thought it sounded like a song that I heard. So explain the connection.
Right. So you were listening to
Tear You Apart.
Tear You Apart by She Wants Revenge.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was a favorite amongst the group back in the Dizzy.
Because Sex and Pirates was a song that I connected with that.
Yeah.
And sort of sat here and was like, what is the connection?
Yeah, I mean, influence so much, right? I mean, it ranges from everything from hip hop to metal bands to, the household names on pop rock radio like Collective Soul,
Nice.
Bands like Live, I was exposed to hand-me-downs that my sister had. This is back in the day, right, where records, CDs were like $24, right? So we weren't exactly the most well-off family back in those days. And so, Green Day records, Offspring, and things that I just absorbed through osmosis were like whatever hand-me-downs that she had came into my world.
Smash, Offspring Smash. I remember that being a hand-me-down that I got too.
Yeah, the Dookie record, small. At that time, I was living in small town Ontario, Sarnia.
Wow.
If you've ever been out to the Blue Water Bridge.
I haven't, but I know where Sarnia is.
Yeah. So, I don't know. In some ways, I guess you could say that I was sheltered from a lot of the, more the city kids or whatever, right? I also live now in the sticks. So just remote, kind of being away from the scene. I've never had a true downtown Ottawa experience. I always would kind of put the punk scene or whatever music movement on a pedestal and be like, yeah, one day, especially with Sunday Riot, we were in our teens and living out in the country, and getting a show was mostly, playing in community centers and squats and
farmhouses.
Yeah. Farmhouses out in Constance Bay or Kinburn or,
that's why I brought that in. I don't know why, because I remember Constance Bay had this weird punk scene, and ska scene back in the day too.
We were there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's funny because I think we were similar in age, so that's probably where that's all coming from.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
From the two places they have in Constance Bay to play music.
Well, they would play on the beach too sometimes, man.
Live.
Yeah.
My brother lives out there, and I drive out there every once in a while. It's like, oh, there's one place on there. Okay.
Well, if the hurricane doesn't come through and tear it apart.
Yes, or the floods.
I was just going to say, was he badly affected by the flood?
Not too bad. Not too bad. He's on the other side of the road, so he wasn't right against the water, but he had his basement flooded, and he had to but it wasn't bad like it was for some people. It was really bad, but he got off pretty lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm familiar with the flood situation out there. I'll tell you, my house has been flooded now for the 7th time. Insurance are like, hey, no more.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. You
Yeah,
figure it out. And I think we've got ourselves sorted out now. We got the Generac.
There we go.
I had some work done, saved up, got some work done on the foundation, and
pray every day we don't get 17
Well,
feet
if you
of
have a
snow.
Generac, you're usually in good shape because it'll run the sump and then. Oh, I know. This is country living. But
Yeah, country living, boys. I don't understand what you're talking
that same
about.
situation. I'm looking into putting in a Generac next year, but it ain't cheap.
yeah, I never thought that. Again, because like living in Beirut, right? Like there's a you have like a 3-hour time window where there's no power, or at least back in the day. Now it's like who knows how long the situation in Beirut is fucked, right? Like power is off, the economy's collapsed, it's crazy, right? But I was always saying to myself, like, at least in Canada, I'll never have to worry about power going out, or never have to worry about any of this bullshit that I'm dealing with over in Lebanon.
And some storms.
And then I bring all that bullshit here.
Yeah, thanks a lot, bro.
Oh, it was all your fault.
I think so.
Uh-huh.
I mean, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
But I had all my studio gear in the basement,
Oh,
right? So I have annexed formal living room, and now I have this whole setup on the main level of the house. Yeah, it's working out okay.
Nice.
Sounds good. Yeah, I've inherited the family home out in Dunrobin. That's where we represent. Dunrobin represent. Shout out to anybody out west.
DR.
Yeah.
But it's not like Dominican Republic.
no, it's not. It's the other DR.
Done, Robin.
Exactly. And it's sounding great. And hopefully someday you guys can come through to the studio, Casa del Lung.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like the name.
Right?
Casa de Long.
Yeah. DeLong.
Where's the hip hop? Like, what is your? I'm a huge hip hop guy, right? I don't know if you knew this, but so what is hip hop to you? Like, where is it good and where does it bad?
Yeah. I mean, it's mostly good. Now I'm kind of, because I'm an old head, I'm not really connecting with some of the newer stuff that's coming out.
You think it's awful? Sorry.
Yeah.
I like Kendrick and J. Cole and stuff like that.
Right, because they're kind of, still thought provoking and
poetic and
putting out really great material. That's, I mean, I'm guilty to a degree of making party music, right? Like our second record is very much so just party, fuck, yay. That's that's the stupid dumb terminology that I've boiled it down to. But
that's where Dawg thought it was poppy.
Yeah.
Well, I was listening. You were listening to one album. I was listening to another one. I'm like, well, this is kind of. I said it says rock, but I find it more poppy. That album was definitely more like, okay, I'm not gonna label it, but I was just kind of like, okay, this is really.
Well, yeah. In a way, right? Like, so the city that we live in as a band, Lazzy Lung, circa 2011, 2012, right? There's the global scare, right? 2012, what's happening, right?
Yeah.
The end of days. The Mayan calendar ends.
Yeah. But it was supposed to be. Then it was supposed to be 2021, and then they made a mistake.
There was this dyslexic Mayan that got it wrong.
Well, there was.
Well, we may have read it.
Oh,
yeah.
It's not about the Mayans.
No, the Mayan calendar ended 2012, and it was like for sure. These guys, they're like space cadets back in the day. They've been batting 100 this whole time, right? So I played with this idea of the end of days. Okay, that's the second record, but also kind of like, party till you die type shit, right? Like Beirut is a city of escapism. Electronic dance music, massive, right? People like to drink, they like to party, they like to fuck. Okay, there's a very healthy,
Comment ça va?
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, compared to the rest of
Como
that
Taibu.
region. Yeah, no, it's a sexy place, man.
Sexy.
Sexy.
Oh my god! And I hopefully one day you guys will do like a wine tour or something. You'll be doing Dawg and Gus podcast vlogs in like the wine region of Lebanon. But in any case, that definitely was a massive influence into our sound. My bassist Ahmed, you know, he really had the pops and you know the dance music, like the upbeat. That funk and that groove. You know, you can hear it on the second or third track on the record. Settle It Out on the Dance Floor.
Sailor's Delight, the album. Sailor's
That's
Delight.
right.
Yeah.
Sailor's Delight. I actually have tattooed on my arm right here. And of course, it's that proverb, right? Like, red skies at night, a sailor's delight. Red skies in morning, sailors take warning.
Yeah.
Something that my grandmother would always, you know, having to do with the weather, right? Like, oh,
Yeah. So,
and
that's how they tell the weather, really.
Gotta say, Ottawa has some pretty wicked red skies at night, especially around now, right?
Yeah. Well, because of the water, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, same thing in Beirut. So there was this common denominator that I just felt was very appropriate. And who knows, maybe we'll come out with a new record called Red Skies at Night.
Oh, be careful.
Ooh. We actually did a couple of shows titled that, and you'll get a poster post show or whatever.
I just want to break out into Red Skies at Night by The Fix.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah. I just right in my head right now.
Your obscureness.
Oh my goodness.
Obscurity. What about like, because I was reading, obviously Emily Lazar was involved in that album, right?
Yes.
She
worked on the Foo Fighters.
Grammy winning.
Yeah.
Wow.
For that record, we were actually working with a lot of prominent women in the scene. We felt that it was, you know, we had this great designer. Shout out to Maria Kassab, who worked on the album artwork, and also Emily Lazar, who mastered the record. We were still managing to record everything ourselves and stayed independent. You know, we were recording in a basement, just nestled in the city, where a lot of other great records came out of. We were sharing a studio space with Zaid Hamdan, who is currently now a massive name in the trip hop scene and the underground scene of Lebanon. He's now working with Bedouin Burger, May Walid. They're in Egypt and France, and blah blah. It's so we were sharing a space with them, as well as Tanjara Dagit, a Syrian group. So it was kind of like this hub. I think even postcards. For anybody who's listening, you should be like writing this down and putting it in your Spotify playlist to check out these people, because they're putting out really, really, really cool music. But we felt like we were ready to, you know, kind of step our game up and work with some names, right? Some people who have done some things that are going to turn some heads. And we really loved the sound that the Foo put out with Wasting Light. And so we were like, who worked on this record? Let's try and get them. And fingers crossed, you know, we work with some local producers or people who mix that can elevate our sound, because for the most part, we've been doing everything DIY.
Very cool. Very cool.
So,
well, I mean, you got to grow too, right? Like,
yeah.
I think that's...
Yeah, you can't, just don't pigeonhole yourself into one genre. Just get out there and explore everything.
Yeah.
And you've got an amazing like background for that as well, right? With the different music that you'll hear in Lebanon, here in Canada, like here in Ottawa too, is like, we've got such an amazing...
Ottawa's getting its own sound.
We've got we are so much bigger than people know.
Oh, for sure. Shout out to the Balconies. Shout out to the band. What was it? I'm blanking right now, but I had their record on repeat for some time. For the Mathematics. Okay, I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they had some really great tunes. Amos the Transparent. A lot. You know, I had my eye on what was happening over the years while I was gone, right? Like,
While you're abroad, yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, the 2009, like, what is that documentary that came out about the Strokes? Something like Meet Me in the Bathroom.
Yep. That's
Right?
exactly it. From the book too. They did a book as well.
Right. So, my band was active during that time, and very much so, taking that spirit of indie rock and kind of trying to do that over there in the Middle East, and we ended up getting some recognition. I'll tell you about this hilarious story. So I'm kind of a bit of a dick. Okay. I have to admit it. I have been constantly trying to prove my self-worth. First and foremost, I guess, getting the approval of my lead singer of Sunday Riot. So I was in this punk band. Simon, the lead singer, currently who's on bass, this amazing songwriter making political punk at the time. And, anything that I brought to the table, he was kind of like, no, this sucks. Like, he would shoot down so much of the stuff. And he was like, look, I'm the songwriter. I'm going to do this. I was like, cool. I'll be the drummer. Okay. I'm just going to stick to playing drums. And I managed to find a battle of the bands for Supernova. I don't know if you guys remember back in the day in Ottawa, there was this concert series called Supernova.
There's always a battle of like the Live 85 did the band one.
Big Money Shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is pre Big Money Shot. Okay. Now, for anyone who remembers Supernova, I'm going to throw a little shade here. Okay. Supernova was a pyramid scheme. A pyramid scheme that was working out well. And I said, look, what could possibly hurt? Let's enter into this battle of the bands, this political street punk band with, hardly any following and a terrible sound at the time. Like, I mean, dude, we took the mixer from our high school to my house. And I don't know if you know anything about audio recording. I'm assuming you do. You guys are podcasters. We took the mixer, took an aux out into the microphone in of the laptop. So it's not multi-track. It's just like the shittiest Radio Shack cable directly into the mixer. And we just recorded what we could and put out this record. And, we were burning CDs.
It would have been a grimy sound.
It was a very grimy sound. There was no Spotify. There was no SoundCloud. There wasn't even really MySpace back. I mean, we're talking about like circa 2000.
Oh yeah, there was nothing. It was LimeWire. Remember that?
Was LimeWire even a thing then?
Yeah. You'd be burning CDs. But
I used to. I know.
Yeah.
Oh man,
it was crap.
Yeah.
Take you 6 weeks to.
Well, you had to go through 7,000 songs and find ones that weren't corrupted.
That's for one. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's for one song. Is like, yeah, it was not a lot of fun.
Yeah, getting rickrolled when you're like trying to download I don't know, some album and you've been waiting 4 days for it to download.
Yep.
But anyway,
rickrolled.
So here it is, Supernova pyramid scheme. They have a model where it's like 10 bands. You have to sell 40 tickets in order to qualify to be able to, be entered in the competition. We did not sell 40 tickets. We did, however, attend the show at Mavericks, and the Supernova thing went on. And frankly, we tore the fucking stage up and we won. Okay.
Sick.
Counter to against all odds, we fared out well, and we won the judges over and the crowd over, and immediately disband after winning.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a high.
We couldn't do any bigger.
It was
as big as
it was like a Rogers Wireless Capital City Music Hall. Fucking, it did not sit well.
Not going to go well with the punks.
Not at all. And so Simon was like, "Fuck this band,
That's funny.
nuke it." And
We're getting too big.
That's it.
well,
Commercial.
exactly. We can't be associated with any of these things. So, and probably for
But
the
it's pretty punk rock that you did that though.
And not die of a heroin overdose. Very well done.
But
Yeah, thankfully, yeah.
Yes.
I took this experience with me to heart and kind of continued it onwards into Lazzy Lung, because I entered Lazzy Lung into a battle of the bands. Only this time it was with the Rolling Stone magazine out in Dubai. And so, we went online and we posted our music and we qualified. They said, we fuck with you guys and we'll bring you over. So we flew over to Dubai. We were it was like the Harley Davidson Rolling Stone Dubai Bubba Bonanza. Okay. And long story short, we killed it. We won. I actually vlogged the entire journey from start to finish. It was on YouTube for a while, but it's so bad. I mean, we're talking like, iPhone 1 video quality footage. You know what I mean? Like, it was
solid. Yeah, solid footage.
looking good. I might post it or share it with you guys, because it is legit, from waking up in Beirut to finally being awarded on stage. A lot of drama. There was a fight amongst the bikers because it's a Harley Davidson event. They were doing a tournament for like the best chopper. Okay.
In Dubai.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh man, Dubai's,
Yeah.
wild like that, right?
Yeah, of
So,
course.
So anyhow, that's how Rolling Stone magazine came into our lives. The Battle of the Bands thing came into our lives. We kept that thing going. We kept entering into different online competitions and just went. So we were sweeping up these industry accolades, which was sick. And I felt like, I'm seen,
Yeah.
and valid, like you're enough or whatever. Right. So it was a strategy that I was trying to implement to try and kind of, take us off, right? Because again, we're like a small fish in a massive, massive sea, right? And a bit of strategizing of, you do what you can, right, with what you have. And we were lucky. We had a pretty cool sound, a great work ethic and spirit that I, encourage everyone to. Like, we were working crazy. I had a full-time job as well as working after hours, like, almost 6 to 8 hours, a day, or 3 or 4 times throughout the week. We were very, very obsessed.
It's good.
And
You have to be.
yeah, I think that was, a pretty big role player into our just crazy work ethic, man.
Well, that helps too, because you become tighter as a band too. Like, not just as a group, like personally, but as like musicians as well, I think.
Yeah. I mean, and also, working with super talented dudes, like,
Yeah, that helps too. Yeah.
Doesn't hurt.
Oh man.
So now, speaking of which, when you're in the studio doing your thing, do you guys take in consideration live shows? You know what I mean? So like, we're going to do this in the studio. We're going to have this sound. We're going to do this. And then you think, oh, are we going to be able to repeat that live?
Yeah. We shot ourselves in the foot with one of the songs. Settle It Out on the Dance Floor is way too crazy and difficult to do. There's just so many elements. There's like synth elements and backup vocals and yada, yada, yada. We were able to do that and nail it out on record, but it just was so hard to translate live. And so we would skip over it a lot. It would sound, we had a lot more of a heavier rock sound than a synth pop sound when we would play it live. But yeah, I mean, you try to, what we've been trying to do is kind of stitching the set list to kind of flow, you know, from one song to the other and kind of do these like medleys that the pros do, you know, that just gives a nice experience as a concert goer, right? Like in terms of tempo and vibe, and take people on an actual journey, you know, sonically and energy wise. You know, our third record is that mellow thing. I mean, you've nailed it, right? Like you could argue that these are not the same bands, right? But it's also chronologically, like, you know, the first record was shit that I was feeling and talking about, you know, in high school, leaving as a 20-something-year-old kid, going into the big, bad, scary world, right? And finding my own. Second record, coming to own and you know, just go on these wild escapades. And then our latest record, Swim the Tide, you know, you're worn out by all the I was worn out by all of the experiences, the people who had come and gone in life. I had a terrible bit of news. My mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, and all of this, and I was abroad, right? So like all of these things are taking place, and I kind of needed to learn to let go and kind of go with the flow. And that's one of the major influences to the third record, which is a lot, I would consider a lot more mature songwriting. Just it's a lot more mellow, you know, and way more personal.
Yeah. We kind of hope that's the way your journey takes you, right? You start off, you're young, you're aggressive. This is what my lyrics are about, man. And then you kind of, like you said, you get into the second part, and then it's just kind of your music follows your life, right? Your journey.
It's true. You got to grow. And
Yeah.
also, like you said, it came from the heart and the soul, right? So I think you're feeling pain, and that sometimes brings out some good music, right?
Yep.
It's weird, man, being like, you know, putting your feelings and emotions down like that and then having to talk about it and relive those things. You know, in some aspects, it's kind of like it helped me get through those times.
I was going to ask, is it like an outlet? Like, was it an outlet?
Oh, for sure. You know, and you know, I mean, the time span from that record was like between 2014, 2013 to 2018. Okay. And, you know, band members have come and gone, relationships up the wazoo have come and gone, you know, and heartbreak like crazy, you know. Political instability. There was the first instance in 2015. There was this thing called the "You Stink" movement. The Lebanese government fucked up, and there was a garbage crisis. The streets were flooded with garbage. Okay, like mountains of garbage, because look it up. Okay, the "You Stink" movement. And there was a public outcry and a lot of protesting. At the time as well, I was working in Turkey. There were like ISIS was a thing, right? I was at the airport, and then in Istanbul, that was attacked. Like I've evaded, I've been pretty fucking lucky, guys, in terms of evading some pretty serious things over the course of time. But those experiences were put down on tape with Swim the Tide. And it was the first time that I kind of felt like, okay, I'm going to get a little political and express my feelings with tracks like Kids with Gum or Cutting Heads. First time that, you know, I had some shit to say about the things happening around me. And again, like, I don't know, man, I'm not the biggest political activist, musician, protest songwriter. That's not ever been my shtick, you know? So, but I feel like that's where I'm gravitating towards more and more with everything that's been happening over the course of time. Like, how can you not?
Well, it kind of goes back to your punk roots too, right? Because the punk movement, spoke out against like everything that they didn't like. They didn't follow the status quo.
There was a cause.
Yeah, exactly. They had a reason for what they were doing.
Yeah, and it makes sense. It's also, and being passionate is comes through in music for sure. It's always been the case in every form, like whether it's political or whether it's being in pain or whether it's love. I think they're all powerful, and there's music for everyone in that sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's my take on it, but I think it's probably correct.
That's a good take.
Talk us about Only Here for the Wi-Fi podcast.
Interesting name, eh?
I love it. I love it actually.
I mean, I don't know about you
because I'm only here for the Wi-Fi.
I'm here for the pizza.
There's pizza?
I don't know. Is there?
No, bro.
Damn it.
Yeah. Did you guys ever used to go to the rock and roll pizza party?
Nope. What's that?
I've heard of it. I never went though.
So this was back in Babylon,
Classic.
and I will
It was
get
Babylon.
yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I'll get to your question.
I used to go to Barrymore's a lot, so it was like it made sense. Yeah.
So the rock and roll pizza party was brilliant, right? It was a dance party. At the end of the night, you'd maybe get a slice. They would go across the street. I don't know if it was Gabriel's or if it was another pizzeria. Georgie's. And
there's another Georgie's.
Okay.
Yeah.
You'd
I saw you looking.
you might be able to grab a slice. I took that and started a rock and roll pizza party Beirut, and we actually did things a little differently. We blew it up. I'll talk about that later. But what was the question again?
But the podcast.
The podcast. Okay, so internet is a thing.
Is it?
It is.
Sure,
And
it is.
yeah, and the speed here is great. Beirut has an infamously terrible just extortion rates. The rates here are pretty bad too, but for cell phone service and things like this. But
we're not. We're like second worst in the world.
Exactly.
In the top 3 for the most expensive.
What the fuck?
I don't get it either. I guess they blame it on how far it goes, right?
Right. Well, I can't for the life of me escape this. This is just, it's been, on me. Okay. This struggle with internet. And there is a big culture. I don't know if, again, I live out in the sticks, so I'm not at the cafes, but I know there are some cool cafes in the city, where people will just plant their laptops and work remotely.
Yeah.
So initially at the time, and that's a massive culture in Beirut, you will see students and people just, again, because they have electricity, they have internet connection. This is the way, a lot of the times you'll leave the office, go to a cafe, smoke cigarettes, drink coffee, and, and do your work and socialize, So initially the idea was to do a podcast, and essentially leech off the Wi-Fi of said establishment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm only here.
It's a culture.
I'm only here for the Wi-Fi. Like
that makes sense,
right?
I love it. To be honest, that was a very well said. Like people said that a lot. Like they would be like, "I'm only here for the Wi-Fi."
Yeah.
And then they'd let them.
Could I get a coffee? A soda water, please.
And I'll stay here for 10 hours.
Exactly.
Working on my novel.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I was trying to.
It's a real thing. That was for sure.
I was trying to work this out, but again, the fucking pandemic happened and just nuked all of those aspirations. So it got resituated online and was born the Instagram Live / Gramcast idea. Where
by the way, that's where we got the name. Was
yes,
Mr.
It wasn't us.
I was tuning into one of your lives, and I was like, you were talking about, doing the podcast. Like, yeah, it's a Gramcast. It is. I'm not going to take.
You should.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Take it.
But
you were saying that at the Wi-Fi stops, like back in the day. Gramcast would be sick, and that was before Instagram. So
exactly,
I made that up, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, and it was also during the time of the Lebanese collapse. Okay, like society is collapsing, the economy is collapsing. A lot of the times artists have a hard time. Like right now, there are events and shows that have been canceled due to the volatility of the area, right? And so everyone's life gets put on hold, and no one can really document or celebrate, or like all of this work that you've been doing, right, is suddenly put on ice. And I was like, fuck that. Okay. Fuck this pandemic. I need human connection, right? This is very, very beginning of the pandemic. And it was maybe a month or 2 months in, and I was starting to go stir crazy. So I was like, I'm going to just interview a lot of my friends who are very active in arts and culture, both here in Ottawa and in Beirut and around the globe, that I've met over the course of time.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of just celebrate each other's wins and all those buzzwords. But really, it was just to have fun for a bit. You know, I paid like $100 US to get, to fill my phone with data, because you could not rely on the Wi-Fi. And I mean, 116 episodes.
Nice.
It's awesome.
You know?
Yeah, it's great. It's fun to watch and listen.
Now, I have to ask, why 2 Zs in Lazy? Asking for a friend, actually.
Yeah, the 2 Zs, man.
Yeah.
2 Zs, as they say here in Canada.
Yes. I'm not sure. Do we say Z or Z?
Zed.
We do.
It's a Z thing.
Okay.
I know it because I sing it a lot lately.
Okay.
A Z,
Yes, you do.
a
Okay.
nation of Z.
Okay.
But yeah,
Zed's dead, baby.
Zed is dead. Jesus.
He's dead too.
Yeah. Oh, we're on a roll here. We're on a roll.
I said it.
So there are many cool stories.
What's going on right now?
Yeah. There are many cool stories, or I try to package it in a neat way. I was creating a logo, if I'm going to be completely honest, and I've never really said this on any show or to any journalist. So,
Are we journalists?
No.
well, you guys kind of are. You know, you're historians, man. You are documenting and interfacing with the arts and culture of Ottawa. And like, props to both of you guys for fucking doing this. I just got to say that.
Thanks, man.
Okay.
I
yeah.
like that.
Yeah, man. You guys are representing arts and culture in Ottawa in a big way. If it weren't for folks like you and Neighborhood Noise and, the other people in the scene, celebrating each other and documenting memories and having conversations, like, fuck, man, we need hype. We need the hype,
I like the hype.
but
Believe the hype.
the Z thing, right. So I was
Zed.
the Z thing. So I'm playing around with logos, at the time, and there was like this really neat, I don't know, what do you call it? It was not like calligraphy or
Font.
it's a cool font, and it just looked cooler with 2 Zs, and
Zeds.
2 Zs. That's right.
Leave the man alone, would you?
Yeah.
It's perfect for the show. Come on.
And it's as simple as that. I would chalk it up to like, sometimes I was starting a MySpace account, and it was like really late at night, and I was probably stoned. I had like the laptop on my chest, and I'm just like, 2 in the morning.
Is that 1 or 2 Zs? I don't care.
Creating an account, and I was like, lazy. And then it just stuck, and I made stickers with 2 Zs, and
Yes.
and then that was it, And honestly, it is a thing that kind of gets people talking, right?
It does. No, it does. I think it's great.
Deadmau5?
I said Lazzy, and you were like, no, it's lazy.
Go with your intuition,
But 2 Zeds would create Lazzy, in my
Lazzy.
opinion.
Yeah, but I mean,
But I'm not. And then you corrected me, and I did it again, and then that was the end of it.
yeah. Well, I mean, people in the hip hop community would never fuck that up. I'm just gonna say that. Right?
Bullshit. They'd be like Lazzy, baby, Lazzy. I'm not lazy. I'm Lazzy.
And I'm just going to step away from the microphone and call 911.
Bullshit. Hip hop would be like all about Lazzy Lung.
Nah, man, it's like
Yeah,
it's
you're right.
like
You're right.
when
You're right. He's right.
when
I'm
Nardwar
totally
was like
fucked up.
JZ.
JZ, yeah.
We don't call him JZ though.
No,
Nardwar
he's
did.
American. But Nardwar,
American.
Nardwar's the man.
Yeah, shout out to Nardwar.
Yeah.
But
I'd love to have him on my show, man. That'd be
definitely
On your show. You have another show. You put him on your
our show.
Yeah. You said my show.
Weird.
Yeah.
But
Joke.
ugh.
Who we talking about?
Are we done? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. This is the episode that nuked the Dawg and Gus podcast.
This is the end of it.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
End of days.
Yeah. No. It is our show. Yes. Nardwar would be sick on the show.
And who is it?
Lazzy Lung. You don't know who Nardwar is?
Is that the guy that wears the Scottish hat?
Bro.
Yeah, dude. He's like he comes up with like primo background on
Don't be
people.
dissing me. I'm old. I really don't care if
Yeah,
he's
but
old.
he's the OG. Much music.
Remember, but you've seen like he'd go on, he'd be interviewing somebody, he'd be bringing up something from way like he shouldn't know, and they're just like shocked about it. Exactly, he's done it perfect. That is a perfect version.
I know who you're speaking of.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Vancouver. I mean, I get it.
Yeah, he's from Vancouver.
You're like Ottawa through and through. I get it. You just had the
No, I just know what I know, and
But much
he knows his other
much
stuff.
music had him on all the time, and
Didn't he
you
come
remember
on
Ed the
late?
Sock?
Yeah, oh yeah,
holy shit.
yeah.
Yeah, so Nardwar and Ed the Sock were like a thing,
Yeah, I remember. Did he not come in a little bit later on?
Oh, for sure.
In that,
but Nardwar was like
okay.
He exploded.
he's legendary still to this day.
Mhm.
He's a great follow too if you follow him on Instagram. Anyway, okay, so you're a hip hop guy. You like the 90s.
Oh yeah, you were asking me about hip hop.
Yeah. Well, let's circle back.
Let's circle back because your boy's a bit of a scatterbrain,
Double
and
Z's.
you're listening to the Dawg and Gus podcast.
Ooh,
Just getting into my podcast guy voice.
it's good.
Yeah. Hip hop. So I used to listen to a lot of instrumentals, Beat Junkies, Invisible Scratch Pickles, DJ Crush,
Wow.
fucking
I'm writing that one down.
Invisible Scratch Pickles.
Fuck, that's a great name.
Oh man,
Classic,
this is
classic, bro.
these are like the
Those are like really obscure. And
they're
I love it.
connected, right? Like Dilated Peoples, DJ Babu,
Yeah.
the Executioners. It's all. I was like pretty obsessed with turntablism. Okay.
Boy.
Yeah.
Have your back on this our question at the end.
Oh man. So I mean, I wanted to, your DJ Shadows, your DJ Crushes,
DJ Shadow, such so sick.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I really loved the brilliance of these instrumental, the journeys, Kid Koala. I could go on and on and on of these different.
Even Black Star, like those guys, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really listening to much Black Star, Gangstar, or.
Well, Guru is a sick Mike MC too.
Mhm.
I don't know. We can go on for a while. We could have our whole show,
But I mean, the greats. There were a couple of. I was working with, or recording, an Ottawa hip hop group called the Babblegoons with Mahilo and some other fellows. They're not. I don't know what they're up to back in the. But I mean, the Babblegoons, man, you got
Another one.
Out. Yeah. My goodness, but Wu-Tang and Nas and
Well, you just said the buzzword for Gus over there.
Wu-Tang.
Nas.
Nas is still considered like I love Wu-Tang, but Nas is in the high up in my top 5.
Yeah, I wasn't really like, for example, I was never really a Tupac guy.
Yeah.
I know that you guys just recently posted a thing today about Tupac. I mean, I fuck with Tupac, but I'm not like people. I don't know, man. With the Thug Love, that whole experience, and it didn't resonate with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I loved his passion for the poetry of and also his passion for his community, which was a big thing back then.
Right.
They were talking about, things that are now coming to light again, really, especially in the Black community. But yeah, no, I get it.
Right.
The thug life thing, I never really understood but he does explain why he does it. But I see why you wouldn't. I just found his flow was ridiculous, and he always had good beats because Dre would create
undeniable,
Yeah.
a great. But at that time, I was listening to street punk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was listening to fucking terrible, terrible punk music. God, do you find that you've kind of like divorced yourself from some of your earlier records, or do you still hold all of them?
Well, that's a good question. What do you think there, Gus?
That's a good question.
Very good question.
Some. Some for sure, but I definitely go back to some of them as well, just to because there's so much nostalgia and just memories and
Yeah, I may not
music.
brag about as much anymore that I listen to this stuff, but I would still go. Like Gus said, it's all circular, right? So you go back to it at some point for whatever reason you need to go back to it.
Well, some of that punk that you're talking about or ska that I was into, I don't go back to.
There you go.
I don't go back to that stuff. Some hip hop in the 80s I don't go back to. Because I was really young then, but I always resonate with the 90s music and some of the bigger names in the 90s for hip hop, and then also some of the classics that a lot of people don't know, like Guru and stuff like that. Like I really liked Black Star because I thought those two were unreal. Mos Def is like fucking unbelievable.
Yeah.
But he's like a jazz artist to me now. Like you listen to
100%.
some of his stuff and it's mostly like there's a lot of drumming and like low bass and all that, and he tells a story. But you're right. I think that there's some stuff that you graduate from. I think Dawg probably listens to a lot of his original stuff still.
I do.
But yeah, no, it's cool to bring up. That was a great question, actually.
I find it very hard, like, to keep up with the newer stuff. So I kind of always gravitate back to what I know.
Music is just a language, right? It's like it transcends, right? It goes everywhere. If we could live our lives like music, we'd all be okay.
Yeah, shout out to Narcy out in Montreal. He actually collaborated. I interviewed Narcy on the podcast, and they actually worked with Mos Def.
Really?
Yeah.
Very cool.
I mean, an amazing hip hop artist who's done a lot of work, an Iraqi Canadian. Shout out to Rockefeller Records. I mean, my God, very, hopefully you guys can interview him. Just an incredibly smart. That was probably one of my favorite podcasts to do, and it was one of the more challenging ones because of how prolific of an artist this dude is. I mean, he's worked with Dave Chappelle, Mos Def, and God knows, like, the list goes on.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Although those guys were like Chappelle, remember, he was always big on bringing artists onto his show.
That's right.
Like even the Roots and obviously Mos Def and Hamilton, Craig Hamilton, I think is his name. Anyways, there was a bunch of artists that were on that are talented.
Yeah. A little bit of name dropping was good. Hip hop, blah blah blah. Podcast life.
80s or 90s? What's the choice?
Oh, bro, I've been hearing this on your show.
That's our question, man.
I know.
Yeah.
It is. I gotta say 90s, dude. A lot of, I was just a baby in the 80s, really.
Same.
I mean,
yeah. I get it. Dawg wasn't.
A lot of
No, I was not.
Yeah. But I mean, cocaine and shit, right?
No, not
the 90s too.
Is that like a decade thing? Because they kind of just went out of style. Yeah, I don't do cocaine anymore. That's just so passe.
Yeah, it was, right? Like designer drugs and things like that. 90s were way more booze and weed. I mean, SNL, you put your weed in there.
Yeah. You put your weed in it, man. Yeah.
So
even Kids in the Hall, they always had something about weed too, because remember the guy wished his hair was weed and he would like pull it off and like roll joints. I don't know if you remember Kids in the Hall.
Dude, I love that show.
No, but Dawg has a face.
I know what you're talking about. Crush your head.
Crush your head.
Or the pen one. My pen. He took my pen. Like the one in the bank. There's
say comedy has played a pretty big part in Canadian life, but in my life as well. Like, I would come home every day and put on the Comedy Channel and just be watching whatever Just for Laughs or whatever.
Montreal always had a big scene there.
Oh, the gags they had were fun, right? Like just for laugh gags they used to do.
Those were like little shorts in between.
Yeah.
And comedy podcasts were actually a pretty big role player in kind of me escaping away from the PTSD of the Beirut blast. Like, I was just on the balcony smoking cigarettes, just like needing auditory stimulation, for weeks. And comedy podcasts like Your Mom's House, Bobby Lee and Cheeto Santino, you know, some of these
that's a good one.
bad friends, and Theo Vaughn, you know.
Oh, Theo's awesome. I'm seeing
10-minute podcast. Shout out to Will Sasso and the Dudesy. Have you guys heard of Dudesy?
No, but I've heard of Will Sasso's podcast, and it's awesome. He does the best Jesse Ventura I've ever heard.
So Dudesy is going to blow your fucking mind. Okay.
Dudesy? Okay.
Dudesy is a podcast created by, produced by an artificial intelligence with Chad Kulchin and Will Sasso. And it's an experiment in the podcasting world of letting artificial intelligence take the wheel in kind of, you know, producing a podcast.
Interesting.
And
Chad Kultgen, right?
Yeah. Dude, it's so silly. It's really silly.
Okay.
But it's such a good time. And you might actually be able to, because I know that they are taking interviews. You might be able to get them on the podcast. Just saying. Shout out.
That'd be sick.
Come on, Will. Come on, Chad. Get on the pod.
Be on both of our podcasts.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. Thank you for your time. We appreciate you in your passion and your music and everything about you, man.
Well, thank you. But I hope I can. I know I could talk for hours, but before I go, there's something that I really, really want to pitch to you guys.
Okay.
Pitch away.
Okay. A podcast for you guys. I don't know if it through here, but I mean, a real estate / music podcast.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
Because if I'm not mistaken, you're involved in the real estate world,
I am. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, you're heavily involved in the music world,
True.
right?
Story.
So,
Okay. Well, now we have to hear your pitch.
Yeah.
right. So there's, you know, if you look at some of the popular podcasts that are around Ottawa, real estate is one of them, right? You kind of look at the most listened podcasts. And I think it would be really interesting if you guys were to do a cross marketing of like featuring, you know, conversations with prominent artists in the scene, but also educating, like, I mean, like, how many artists of the people that you've interviewed own homes?
Very few.
Right?
Yeah.
Or know about the ins and outs of the current state of real estate in Ottawa.
Very few.
Right?
I would suspect.
And also, if you an interesting other element to bring into the picture, you know, if you're trying to showcase a home or a house, how cool would it be to do like a so far experience live podcast like we are right now in a house that you're actively trying to sell? Right. So it's like the podcast will exist, the listing will go up, and it's like, oh, wow, what a cool fucking kitchen or house. You know, you do a little bit of both, right? The band gets a chance to come in and talk about music, learn a little bit about real estate, and maybe, you know, you work them through their journey of you know, becoming homeowners. And it's just this gigantic, awesome mishmash of two worlds colliding.
It's interesting. Like, and then maybe video it and have it like almost like a, yeah.
Like see the wheels turning in his head.
Yeah, I do that.
Yeah.
A thinker and
He is.
like, yeah.
I'm telling you. And if you need help, man, your boy is
My boy lazy coming in hot.
Yeah.
Not lazy. That's why there's two Z's.
Yeah.
That's right. More Z's, more sleep.
There you go.
I thought it was the other way around. Extra Z makes it biggity biggity. Now we're just making. We should have Dude Z like do an AI version of that.
Let's grab a beer,
Oh,
guys.
yeah.
Let's head to the vault.
Well, thanks very much, brother.
Thank you, guys. Have
Cheers.
a great night, guys.
You.
Clear.